before we cover more Project 2025 stuff, I do want to say it's interesting to me how much both of the candidates that we have right now are not as competent as they should be. On Biden's side, he had a really bad debate performance, and on Trump's side, he's allegedly a rapist. This is America. But how did we get to this particular point? At least the Trump possibly rapist point. How did we get there? Well, there's a viral post that's been going around on the internet, and we're going to look at that post real quick and then come to some conclusions afterwards. But first, let's do the fan art section thing real quick. We have one piece of fan art to go over first, and that is this one right here from Cute Dark Arts, also known as Stoff. This is a slime Suris model, which I have actual... Oop, let me get over here real quick. This is a printable slime Suris model with the STL available on the Discord, as evidenced by me printing out slime Surises. I have many slime Suris models now, like a lot of little itty-bitty slime Surises. Thank you very much, Stoff, for the piece of fan art. I greatly appreciate it. We also have one piece here from Zethanator. Sylvie Snow suggested this doodle on stream, pencil and dry pastel on paper. Honestly, for a quick doodle, I really like how the face turned out. We have Suris as a Gardevoir. Because of course we do. She is one of my favorite Pokemon, though, so I can't complain. That said, as always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, let's get into today's topic, which is this post right here. You've probably seen this particular page floating around the internet a whole lot. Let's read it real quick, and then we'll do a little bit of factor cap with it, I guess. But this is ripped out from a court case saying, on the third occasion involving the defendant Donald J. Trump, the plaintiff Katie Johnson was forced to engage in, I'm going to go ahead and preface this in case you haven't already read it. We're talking about sexual assault. Probably should have figured that out already from the video title or anything else, but let's go. Was forced to engage, the plaintiff Katie Johnson, in an unnatural lesbian act with her fellow minor and sex slave, Maria Doe, aged 12, for the sexual enjoyment of defendant Trump. After this sex act, both minors were forced to orally copulate defendant Trump by placing their mouths simultaneously on his erect penis until he achieved sexual orgasm. After zipping up his pants, defendant Trump physically pushed both minors away while angrily berating them for the poor quality of their sexual performance. Sounds a bit like Trump. On the fourth and final sexual encounter with the defendant, Donald Trump, the plaintiff Katie Johnson, who was tied to a bed by defendant Trump, was then proceeded to forcibly raped plaintiff Johnson. During the course of this savage sexual attack, plaintiff Johnson loudly pleaded with defendant Trump to please wear a condom. Defendant Trump responded by violently striking plaintiff Johnson in the face with his open hand and screaming that he would do whatever he wanted, as he refused to wear protection. After achieving sexual orgasm, the defendant, Donald J. Trump, put his suit back on, and when the plaintiff, Katie Johnson, in tears asked defendant Trump what would happen if he impregnated her, defendant Trump grabbed his wallet and threw some money at her and screamed that she should use the money to get a fucking abortion. You know, the Pilot Wings Resort theme, it's very adequate for right now. Because all I want to do is take a plane off this fucking island. So, this is page 3 of 6 that was filed in 2016 against Trump. Now, I understand that there's a lot of you who currently have to take a moment to go out and vomit. It makes perfect sense that you would have to do that. But we do have to talk about whether or not this has merit. Now, as much as I dislike Trump, I would love to say that it has perfect merit. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the details and see what happened and what's going on with this particular bit. So, let's scroll up here because I read on this a little bit. A viral post on social media is circulating a court document with allegations of sexual assault against former President Donald Trump made in a legal filing that was dismissed almost a decade ago. The reasons why it was dismissed, we'll find out here in a second. The post alleges that Trump, the presumptive Republican nominee for this year's presidential election, forced young girls to perform lesbian acts. It has amassed more than 17 million views on Twitter since Monday, and has been shared more than 34,000 times. Some Twitter users appear to believe that the document is a recent filing. The post was shared after about 150 pages of transcripts related to a 2006 grand jury investigation into Jeffrey Epstein's rape and sex trafficking of teenagers was released to the public on Monday. However, the document included in the X post isn't connected to those papers, but actually comes from a lawsuit filed in the months leading up to the 2016 election by an anonymous plaintiff using the name Katie Johnson. The lawsuit, filed in federal court of Riverside, California on April of 2016, named Trump and Epstein, the later convicted sex offender, as defendants. So while, yes, this was not from the Epstein documents that were pulled out here recently for people to view and scrutinize, this does still have to do with Epstein. The Epstein Island jokes that were made in the chat, 112% perfectly warranted. A judge dismissed the case in May that year, ruling that the complaint didn't raise valid claims under federal law. Okay. But we know that the island is real. We know that Trump had his name in the affidavit for going to the island several times, and we also know that Epstein 100% trafficked sex slaves on the island that Trump frequented. So, even if this specific allegation is without merit, which I doubt, even if it is specifically without merit, that doesn't matter, because he's a rapist. He's just a rapist. Another version of the lawsuit was filed in June, but reportedly withdrawn months later. And a third version of the suit, with the plaintiff going by Jane Doe, was filed in September of 2016, accusing Trump of rape. The suit was also dropped months later. Trump's accuser had been expected to appear at a news conference in early November 2016, but her attorney, Liz Boom, said she had received threats and was too afraid to show up. When people ask you why people don't talk about actual sexual assault shortly after it happens or when it happens, oftentimes it's because they're worried about reciprocation happening to them. Like this, right here. Shadow Wolf says he's not just a rapist, he's a child rapist. Yeah. And what's worse than a rapist? A child rapist. Doe's attorney, Thomas Meager, then filed a notice to dismiss the case without providing an explanation. The woman hasn't been heard from since. Alan Garton, Trump's then lawyer, dismissed the woman's allegations as categorically untrue at the time, saying it's frivolous, baseless, and irresponsible. I won't even discuss the merits because it gives it credibility that it doesn't deserve. Which is, of course, what any lawyer would say, because their goal is to make sure that the defendant that they are working with will be able to see the light of day after the court hearing. They're not going to be like, well, you see, my client actually did rape the woman while she was a child, but you see here, in this video essay, I will, like, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. The allegations in the now dismissed suit appear to resurface on social media when documents related to Epstein are unsealed. A similar social media post circulated in January after previously sealed court documents went from a now settled lawsuit filed against Ghislaine Maxwell by one of Epstein's victims were made public. Epstein was charged by federal prosecutors with sex trafficking. We already know that. Maxwell was convicted of sex trafficking. We already know that. Okay. So where does this leave us? Well, it leaves us with this not being new information. When it comes to the case about Katie Johnson. However, there are other allegations that this kind of brings a bit more to light. This is an article from almost exactly 1 year ago, where a judge had to clarify that, yes, Trump was found to have raped someone named E. Jean Carroll. Despite Carroll's claims that Trump raped her, they noted the jury stopped short of saying he committed that particular offense. Instead, jurors opted for a second option called sexual abuse. Joe Tacanoma, or yeah, Tasapina, unfamiliar names, said outside the courthouse that this was a rape claim, this was a rape case all along, and the jury rejected that and made other findings. A judge has now clarified, however, that this is a legal distinction without a real-world difference. He said that what the jury found Trump did was, in fact, what most people would commonly understand as rape. Notice that I haven't said Trump is allegedly a rapist in here. I don't have to say Trump was allegedly a rapist. A judge literally said he was a rapist. I don't have to do that. Takapina says stuff. Okay, fair enough. Takapina. The filing from Judge Louis A. Kaplan came as Trump's attorneys have sought a new trial and have argued the jury's $5 million verdict against Trump in the civil suit was excessive. The reason, they argue, is the sexual abuse could be as limited as the groping of a victim's breasts. I don't think that that's limited. I feel like that's pretty fucking bad, too. That's where somebody's like, oh, he didn't really rape you. His dick didn't go 15 inches into your stomach. No. I'm sorry, but I'm perfectly willing to say, yeah, that's bad fucking enough. It doesn't have to be worse than that. The findings that Mrs. Carroll failed to prove that she was raped within the meaning of the New York penal law does not mean that she failed to prove that Mr. Trump raped her, as many people commonly understand the word rape. He added, indeed, as the evidence at trial recounted below makes clear, the jury found that Mr. Trump did exactly that, which is rape her. Donald Trump is a rapist. People who are advocating for Donald Trump are advocating for a rapist. They want somebody to run the country who raped a woman. If you are somebody who advocates for Donald Trump becoming president, you are advocating for a rapist. That's what you're doing. There's no sugarcoating. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We have court documents. He raped her. Like that. I get angry about this because it's cut and fucking dry. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand why getting somebody to run the country who's a rapist is bad. And yes, and ignoring the Rule 34 felony convictions. That too. But no, literally, Republicans want a rapist running the country, not somebody who engaged in locker room talk, an actual honest-to-God consent wasn't given rapist who visited Epstein's island. That's who you want. And what they'll do, I guarantee you, this is what they're gonna do. With shit like this, they're gonna do what they always do, and they're gonna do, oh, well, Biden sniffed the hair of a young girl once. Biden sniffed her hair. That was weird. Yeah, that was weird. You know what? That wasn't rape. I'm sorry, it wasn't rape. In terms of things that are bad and things that are absolutely goddamn awful, in order of magnitude, there's being a little creepy, which is bad, but trust me, you've been to an anime convention, you've seen worse, and then there's motherfucking rape. In terms of magnitude, one of these is way the fuck out in right field, and that one is Trump. He's the one way out in right field. So, like, sniffing someone's hair is going to cause as much trauma to someone as rape. One of these people is a little weird and a little senile, and the other one is a rapist. He added that Kaplan said New York's legal definition of rape is far narrower than the word is understood in common modern parlance. The former requires forcible, unconsented to penetration with a penis, but he said that the conduct the jury effectively found Trump liable for, forced digital penetration, meets a more common definition of rape. I feel like it's not going to matter either way. Whatever you force into somebody's vagina, it's still rape. It's not... What do you want? What do you want from me or anyone else talking about this? Like, if you are a Trump supporter in the chat, please let me understand. Let me into your world. Why do you think a rapist is worth voting for? He cited definitions offered by the American Psychological Association and the Justice Department, which in 2012 expanded its definition of rape to include penetration with any body part or object. Kaplan also flatly rejected that Trump's team suggested that the conduct Trump found liable for might have been as limited as groping of the breasts. The reason? Trump wasn't accused of that. So the only alleged offense that would have qualified as sexual abuse was forced digital penetration, which is when you use your fingers and somebody didn't consent. There. Beyond that, Trump was accused of putting his mouth on Carol's mouth and pulling down her tights, which Kaplan noted were not treated as alleged sexual abuse at trial. The jury's finding of sexual abuse, therefore, necessarily implies that it found Trump did forcibly penetrate her vagina, saying that it is the only remaining conclusion. Kaplan also noted that the verdict form did not ask the jury to decide exactly what conduct Trump had committed, and that neither prosecutors nor Trump's lawyers had requested for it to do so. Mr. Trump's attempt to minimize the sexual abuse finding is perhaps resting on nothing more than groping of the breasts through her clothing is frivolous. He added that the jury clearly found that Trump had raped her in the sense of the term broader than the New York penal law definition. The motion was part of Trump's effort to appeal the verdict against him. That's an effort that will apparently continue as he faces a separate defamation lawsuit from Carol, dealing with claims Trump made about her allegations while he was still president. But for now, Trump's efforts to push back has led to a rather remarkable clarification that severely undercuts his main talking point. This is the person the Republicans want forward. I'm sorry, there is no Republican politician who can be trusted with jack shit because they want a rapist as president. That's who they want. So, that's where we're at. So yes, there was a viral post that had nothing to do with the Epstein leaks, but had everything to do with Epstein going around on the internet. And no, it is not as sound as one might hope, but it doesn't matter because the reason that posts like that go viral on the internet is because the claim effectively boils down to Trump is a rapist. And we have legal precedent to say, Yes, indeed he is, and no, he has not grown from it. And I don't think he ever will. In fact, I think he'll die before that character arc can even begin. But don't worry. He's Christian and he speaks his mind. That's what makes him so cool to you, right? Insert end of video tagline here. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability a Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Red Joker, Britzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Nixie-chan, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.